we bring clarity to our values?
Well, first of all, is it's making sure that the values are truly your values. And there's a real key to that because in my experience with coaching, and it doesn't matter whether I'm coaching an individual, a group, an executive, a professional, sometimes what's happened is that we are actually living our lives in accordance to someone else's value system, and we haven't figured it out yet. And what happens is that we are living and we're doing our work and we're not happy, we're not fulfilled. It's not filling us up in our soul or in our core. And those may be values that are noble values. They may be values that your parents have instilled on you that are their values, but they may not be your values. They may be cultural values. They may be professional values. This is what you ought to, need to, got to have in your profession. But it may not be truly authentic to who you are. And so it's important to do a check-in to get very clear with your values. And one of the simple exercises I really like doing is having a person start with a negative, finish with the positive. And you start off with really writing a story in vivid detail. So you make it really granular. You could paint a picture with this story. It's so clear for someone else to read. And they're not going to read it. You're going to read it. But it needs to be that clear. And the first part of it is a story of when your life was not going well at all. The second story is when your life was going amazingly well. Even if it was just a moment, it's what was happening in that moment to allow your life to go well. And so in this, what you find is the negative story, in it, your top values will not be supported. And in your positive story, your top values will be supported. And as a result, you can start to tease out what your values are. So for example, mine are on connection, on autonomy, on freedom. For me, nurturing is high, integrity is high, but there are other values that, for example, my husband has higher than I do, just with who he truly is. So next, it's then taking stock of what it is you need to get some clarity in and look at what your values are. Look at where you currently are. Where are you manifesting those values? Where are you not? Where are you lying to yourself? In other words, where are you inauthentic with what you're doing? And where is it that you want to go? And you tie those values into where you want to go with all the decisions that you need to make. So the clarity piece comes is in identifying the values that are important to you, that you're passionate about. You're going to feel fulfilled when they are present in your life because you are expressing them. You lose track of time and space because you love what you do, you're doing what you love, and life just seems to get easier when you're living in accordance to those values. So the piece then becomes identifying what do you need to do to get from point A to point B. So if you feel right now you're at a 5 out of 10 of reaching a certain goal, what is the goal going to be? Because you need to be very clear what that goal is. What would that 10 out of 10 look like to know that you could measure that you've been you've achieved it? And what is the emotion you would feel once you've achieved it? What's that going to get you? How are you going to feel once you achieve it? And you can't go from a 5 to a 10, or rarely can a person go from a 5 to a 10. I guess they can from a quantum world, but most of us aren't there yet. And so the reality is what is it that your next step is going to be that's going to take you from a 5 to a 6? And that step needs to be so small that you can take it within 24 to 48 hours in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't mean it's going to be completed in 24 to 48 hours. It means that you're taking a step in that direction. And when you've taken a step in that direction, you need to give yourself a pat on the back and you need to congratulate yourself because you need to celebrate that you actually did something. But the clarity piece comes by getting in the game. You can't sit back. In my experience, you can't sit back or shouldn't sit back and wait till everything's all thought out before you start. Because the reality is that's the analysis of paralysis. You will not move forward in whatever it is you want to do. You're waiting, and it's like you're waiting. You're putting your life on hold for something that will never begin. So get yourself in the game of life by taking a step. Get the feedback on whether this was the right step or a step of a direction that's going to allow you to do some course correction. Yes, you may need some data to help you, but that would be a step as well, getting the data to make that decision, to make the best decision. You tune in with your values and your clarity, and then you keep moving in a direction. But most people wait till things are perfect, which I can't stand that word unless of course, I need a parachute and then I want it perfect. But on the day-to-day things in life, what we really want to do is check in, make the best decision with all the knowledge we have right now, tuning in to whether that's the right decision for us, and make a decision out of excellence. And excellence changes as we grow, as we experience life, as we become a little bit wiser. And so I love that word excellence, because excellence at the age of 5 is very different from 15, very different from 50. And it allows us to continually grow and fine tune and raise the bar. As we experience more, that bar can continue to raise. There's no end point. Things can continually improve. Whereas if we wait till something's perfect, we won't start. That's the realities. We will not start. Take, for example, the worst time of the year to make actually goals is January the 1st. Worst time of the year. Most people are hungover, they're exhausted, they got kids to get back to school, or they've been off their work for a few days, and they've got Christmas decorations or holiday things to put away. It's a bad time to make a goal. You should be making your next year's goals in November and December. But the reality that I like to say is, why not be making goals throughout the year, that you start certain goals in certain months? So, but that being said, most people will start to make a goal to, like, weight loss January the 1st. The problem is that they start giving themselves excuses, justifications, rationalizations, intellectualizations, or they blame people as to why they're not losing weight or dropping weight. And what's happening is they're waiting for the perfect time to start. There is no perfect time to start. You have to start now. That's when you have to start, is getting into that game and take that little baby step. What's one little thing that you can do immediately that's going to start to move you into a direction?